All right, welcome everybody to the Man Down Project podcast, where we are really committed and obsessed with helping men navigate grief better. So I'm super excited today to welcome our guest, Jacque Ecuyer, and I can say that
Very
with a
good.
reasonable French accent because I'm Canadian as well.
Okay.
So, quick introduction for Jacque, and then we'll jump right in. So, Jacque survived the mental health minefield, and he's become an advocate for others. So, he was bullied as a child, has overcome drug addiction, battled depression and PTSD, as well as survived multiple suicide attempts. He's created his own organization, community programs, and shared his story on multiple platforms to encourage others and to give them hope. So, Jacque, welcome, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. All right. Well, hey, what I'd love to do is I'll just ask you an open-ended question, but man, I'd love to hear some of your backstory. So just start wherever you think is the best, and we can take it from there, man.
Well, we can start right from, as I said, bullying. Bullied as a child for 2 years, grade school, middle school, mental and physical. I mean, everything from being chased home, stuffed in trash cans, beat up, spit on, you name it. Never understood why. I was a good student, decent looking kid, played sports, was involved in church. Just was the target, unfortunately, of a couple individuals. Um, Trend setting. I'll try to fast forward through the story and got into high school, middle school, high school. Became addicted to cocaine, heavy cocaine user and alcohol. Woke up one day after a 72-hour bender and looked in the mirror and I felt like I had aged about 50 years. Went to my parents and said, I need help. So we went through detox. We didn't have the money for a formal detox. So literally it was like you see in the movies. You go in a room, you're locked in a room, you go through the night terrors, the sweats. That was about 6 months of that. So it was pure hell. Lost both parents to cancer. My mom was only 47 years old. My dad I lost in 2013. Suffered from mild PTSD losing my mom just because of the relationship that we had. I've lost several cousins to heroin overdose. And then, of course, the end all is try to take my own life twice to end up here.
There's so much to unpack there. One thing I'm curious about is the experience of being bullied. So when I was in high school, uh, I was definitely a bully, and I look back on that time now, man, and I just see just a young kid, totally insecure, trying to fit in, and trying to raise myself up by tearing other people down, which I would never do by myself. Of course, it was always with a group of friends. But I thought a lot about that to the point where I've actually reached out and apologized to some of the people, like actually fairly recently. But I mean, I'd love for you to illuminate what is it like as a kid, like to be like to be bullied, like what is it, the experience, like what does it do for your sense of self?
Well, as I said, the biggest thing is to try to understand why. Like, I would sit in my room and just try to wonder, like, what made me the target? Like, why? Like, what did I do wrong to deserve to be treated that way? And yeah, I mean, back then we didn't have cyberbullying either, so it was easy. I could have an escape. I would go to my room. Would play with toys. I would, draw. I would color, whatever. But that was my escape. I had a safe space. But it would be almost like an anxiety or a panic attack because I could see my attackers or my accusers outside. I could see them out the window waiting for me. Wait. So you would sit in there. I would talk to a teacher. I would talk to I would talk to as many people as possible to avoid having to go outside. And some days they just took off. They got, either bored or pissed that I was in the school for so long. Sometimes they would wait to the end and the chase was on. Chased all the way home, had to run over, hop over a fence and in the house and hopefully escape a physical beating at the time. So yeah, it tears up with your psyche. It's anxiety. It's just to wonder why. I never had the answer, but I did get the chance to clear that up later in life. Actually, the first child that bullied me, Dan Daggett, unfortunately for him, got into a car accident in 21. He's now paralyzed from the neck down. I don't know if that's karma or not. I would never wish that on anybody, but you think, because I wasn't the only target. He had other targets. The other kid, I still remember him, Sal Spatial. Ran into him when I was about 18. This was after I got into boxing and lifting with my brother, and I was much bigger than I was in school. So I actually went up behind him. I tapped him on the shoulder, and he hadn't grown. He was a short little Italian kid. Like he looked like he hadn't aged or grown. And when I tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around and I looked at him, I said, Sal, you don't remember me, do you? And the look on his face was enough for me. Like I could easily have been like, "Hey, I can pummel you now. I'm much bigger," but the look on his face was enough for me. So I guess it all worked out in the end.
Wow. So was that through high school or was that
No,
elementary school?
this was fourth and fifth grade.
And what ended it? They just
Oh,
lost interest or
nope, Dan Daggett. I think I ran home one day, and my father was at the time was a very big man, professional bodybuilder, weightlifter, 6'3", 6'4", 290 pound, big man. So I ran in the house, getting chased home, and he asked me what was going on. I told him, and he said, "Well, you're going to learn how to fight today. You either go out in the driveway and you fight Dan, or you stand in the house and you fight me." Not a tough choice when you're a little kid and you're looking up at a massive individual and a kid out in the driveway. So I went out in the driveway. Believe it or not, I actually won that fight, and never again.
wow, man.
Just standing up to the bully. I mean, you never want to say the physicality should ever come to that because that should be your last resort. But after the year of torment I had with that, it felt. I'm going to be honest with you, it felt really good to end up on
Okay.
the right end of that for one time after the hundreds of times that I was on the losing end, so to speak.
Yeah, man. That's yeah, for sure. So then you go into high school. You mentioned you got into cocaine. For me, that was in my I made it till my 20s before I sampled the nose candy. It
Yeah,
sure did love it though for a
yeah,
while there.
yeah. Oh yeah, yes indeed.
Yeah. So I mean, what was the yeah? I mean, I just love to hear about that. And what was that like for you?
All right, so I went to Catholic school as a child. Again, born in went to Catholic church. My mother was very high involved in the church and the choir. So we went to St. Teresa for grades 1 through 8, and then when it came time for high school, I was given the choice on where to go. We had three high schools in our area. There was Bishop McGinn, which would be another Catholic school. We had CBA, which is a military school for boys. And then Albany High was a public school. So I said to my parents, I'd love to try Albany High. I don't want to do uniforms anymore. I just want to, try something new. So that's what we did. I went to Albany High as a ninth grader and found out that I was the minority, heavily a high black population and Latino. But the one thing I found was I bonded over sports because I was always good in sports. I was good in basketball, football. That's how I excelled, and that's what sort of bonded me. And I was actually friends with more black people than I was with my own, white people. But anyway, to start getting involved, I just, people like me. I didn't come from that because I was bullied as a kid. I wasn't involved with the popular kids in grade and middle school. So once you get involved with them and you can hang out, they accept you, and they were just very big partiers. So I skipped right over pot. We started, we get people to buy you beer in the stores. So it started with beer and then progressed to alcohol. Then one day we're like, oh, here, try this. So here we go. We tried this, and it got to the point where I was literally doing an 8 ball every 2 days. I mean, I'm talking heavy. I'm actually right now 30 years in recovery right now. So, and I actually became a certified recovery coach. So I've actually turned that into the other end of it now.
Wow. So logistically, you're that age. You're doing all this blow. Where do you get the money, man?
Stole shit all the time. I would take stuff from my parents, brothers and sisters, from other people's parents, other people's homes. But you have to remember, you're looking at, so I'm 54, I'll be 55 this year. So we're looking at 80s, 87, 88, where it wasn't, obviously as expensive. It was a lot easier to find back then, than it is now. And it's a lot more expensive from what I hear. I don't know. It's been a long time, but I can imagine. So, yeah, typical things your drug addict goes through. You take as much as you can, you steal, you barter, I owed a lot of people money. I've gotten my share of whoopings that way too, but you had to do to find your next high. So that's what took you away. That was your escape.
And what was, I mean, in that moment, I mean, before you got to the point where you asked for help, asked your parents for help, how far into this are you before, or how are you rationalizing this behavior at the time, like this destructive behavior, stealing and all that? And I mean, how long before you decided to say you needed help did you start to really grasp how much of a problem this was?
Well, I think the deeper I got in with the popular kids, or what I thought were the popular kids, but they were like the tough guys and the good looking girls, and they so the more I would steal things and I would give it to them thinking that would put me in their good graces. Hey, you know what? Let's get, we can get high tonight, or we could drink, whatever. I would buy a couple bottles of whatever it was, Jack Daniels at the time. But you always felt like, hey, I can feed this, and then in turn they're going to accept me. And for that moment, yeah, you were the cool kid, and it felt good to be the cool kid because of years of being the not so cool kid. Now it felt like, wow, I found people that care about what I thought was genuine care and love. It wasn't. It was a facade. But at the time, that's what it felt like. So it felt good to be involved in that. And as I said to you, it was a night after 3 days, I think 3 days straight of just binging on coke and liquor, alcohol. I got up. I remember walking to the bathroom of my buddy's house, and I looked in the mirror, and it was just these bags under my. I literally looked like I aged 20 years. I looked in the mirror, and I just didn't like what I saw. Um, and I know I needed help, so I went to my parents, and my parents knew. I mean, my mother was very intuitive. Most mothers are. They know that I was involved in something. And I broke down, and I just said, "Listen, I need help. I'm going down a bad path, and I'm probably gonna die. And if
Were
I
you
don't
were you
die, I'm gonna end up in prison."
were you at home at this time? Like living at home at this time?
I really wasn't home. I was bouncing back and forth. I was, always staying at people's houses. My parents didn't know where I was. And this was coming in to just before my mother had passed away, and all that. So it was a whole, they never knew where I was. I would never tell them. I'd be gone for 3, 4 days at a time and just never, back then we didn't have cell phones. I had a pager. So, it wasn't like, they couldn't find me. I'd come home and, you'd be disheveled, haven't showered in 3 days. Like I said, they knew what was going on. They just, I guess they were waiting for me to come to grips with the reality that I needed help and I had to ask for
Yeah, dude, I'm 52, so we grew up roughly around the same era. You're a badass for having a pager, man.
it.
I want a pager so bad. I don't know who
wasn't
would have
all, it
called me.
wasn't all it cracked up to be because you still had to find a payphone because you're like, oh man, okay, payphone. Now there's no payphone, so it's like, oh, I gotta find a payphone and call, whatever back. But yeah, we thought we were cool.
Yeah, it's funny. My daughter's 20, and I try to describe her like in the 80s, what it was like on a Friday night trying to track down your friends. You'd be like on a payphone calling their mom, "Hey, do you know where Jim is? Oh, I think she's over at Ted's house." Then oh, I don't have any more quarters. I got to go. Like, you know,
Yeah, and there was no redial. You had to dial the number back again. You had to put the quarter back in and dial again. Oh, it's busy again. Yeah, I remember those days.
Absolutely. And I'm not like a germaphobe or anything, but when I think back to the idea of actually talking on a payphone, that is disgusting, man.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
Even I think back and I'm like, man, but yeah, you know what? You had to do what especially, back then it was a girl was calling you or you didn't know the number.
oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, I got to pick up. I got to call her back.
absolutely, man. So you got help. I mean, was that time the time that you quit, or did you
Oh, no,
have
that
to go?
was the time. And that was,
Wow.
yeah, that was, as I said, the only way I can describe it to people is what you see in the movies, which is literally in a locked room. And, you went through, there were night terrors, the cold sweats, the withdrawals were brutal. My mother, they would come in and give you the cold ice bath and try to get you down, tremors. I mean, it was just, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But we didn't have the money. We didn't have the means to go to a fancy, detox center or addiction, counselor. But, sometimes it's tough love and the hardest way is the best way. And, I guess for me, it worked out.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned then obviously the loss of your parents, especially your mom. So I'm curious, what was that experience like for you? And this podcast obviously is about grief and growth, and just one of the things I would love to change forever is I would love people to understand what grief is and how to navigate it, etc. But when you went through the loss of your mother, I mean, what was that like for you? Obviously, it was horrible, but I mean, I would love to hear about that experience and just did you think about it in terms of grieving or not at all? Like, did that concept not even come up? Like, what was it like?
All right, so backstory: my mother got diagnosed at 37 years old with breast cancer, battled for 10 years, and ended up passing away at 47. To see my mother on the street, you'd never even know she was sick. She would go to church every Sunday. She liked to dress up. I mean, she put on the best facade anyone. I mean, you would never ever figure out that this woman was ill. She hid it very well. I don't know. It took me a long time to say that to get over or to the grieving process is not easy. It's different for everybody.
Sure.
My biggest issue with it was I remember I went out the night before. So my mother was supposed to come home on hospice on or come home on a Friday, start hospice on Monday. So she came home. She had two wishes. She wanted the family to be around when she passed. She wanted everyone, if she was to pass, she wanted my three siblings and my father to be around, and she wanted to pass at home. So my father actually literally had to threaten one of the doctors, literally pick him up off his feet, put him against the wall, and said that he was taking my mother home because that's where she wanted to be. So we brought her home, and she just laid in bed. It was like looking at a zombie. She was on morphine. She wasn't. She was there, but she wasn't there. She had the death rattle, and she had the. But her eyes were open. She would make little gestures, like you could see maybe a lip move or something, but very, very minimal. She knew we were in the room. I would lay with her. Everyone would lay with her. I'd stroke her hair. It was just. It was surreal because it was the first time I really dealt with anyone that close. I mean, my grandparents are one thing, but when you're talking about your mom, your mother or your father. I mean, it was and just the relationship that we had because she always called me the unique one. I mean, I don't know why. It was just always something that she did. She signed all my cards. The unique one. I was always like the out of the four of us, I was always that one she sort of catered to more, and I was the third out of four. So just I don't know what it was. So the night before I went out, and I was angry at God and the world and everything because I knew she was going to pass. I mean, it was only a matter of time. I went out on a drinking bender that night, ended up destroying my friend's apartment, punched doors off hinges. I mean, I went on just a rampage of just anger and, yeah, just destruction. Went home the next day, went in, checked on my mom. My dad was actually sitting at the kitchen table with my mother's best friend, who was a nurse, who stayed with us, even though she had four kids of her own and a husband, stayed at our house to be there for my mom. So that woman was her angel, still alive. Love that woman to death, Linda Huba. But came in, said, checked in, looked in the room, said, "How's mom?" My dad said, "Okay, she made it through the night." So I said, "Okay, I'm gonna get some sleep." Went in, and I remember it was 10:10 that morning. My brother, younger brother, came in, John Paul, and he whacked me on the foot, tried to get me out of my stupor, and he was just in tears. I mean, it just complete utter sadness. And he said, "Mom's gone." And it took me a minute because I had had a late night again, drinking and whatever. So I got up, went in, and there she was. And after everything was said and done, everyone had come in and said their goodbyes. I remember her getting carried up the driveway in a body bag as the last vision of my mother. Which to this day I can see clear, and it still haunts me to this day. And it's been 30 years, and I can still see that day like it's happening right now. It crushed me. It destroyed me. I mean, literally destroyed me, and mentally and emotionally.
How did that, when you say destroyed you, I mean, how did, in the aftermath of her passing, I mean, how did your self destruction, let's say, or your destroy, like, how did that play out?
I think it actually it was almost like the things that we've talked about, and then her death was almost like the icing on the cake, so to speak. It was like I've had enough. Like that was the straw that broke the camel's back because I turned into the person that I am now, which means I said to myself I'd never get bullied again. I would never allow anyone to disrespect me. I would never. It was almost like a switch turn. And to go back to what you said earlier, I actually later in life became the bully because I started, like I said, I got into boxing and train. So I felt like I would be the guy in the bar, honestly, where I would just go up and I wouldn't even ask you questions. I just go up and smash you. I was the bully. I turned into someone I never wanted to be. But I had a lot of rage issues, a lot of anger, and it was a lot of resentment on talking to God in my own way, in my own private time, and asking Him why. My mother was such a beautiful woman, and she was such a good person. I knew I wasn't going to get the answers, but it was just unresolved pain and anger that I just couldn't get over, and I just didn't know how to channel it. So it came out in negative fashion in a lot of ways.
Was it just, would you say it was generalized rage and anger? Was it targeted toward God? Was it just
I
anybody?
just think
Just,
it was just I was just angry. Like I just wanted like I would literally look up. I mean, like I'm sure many people have had discussions. And I would look up and I'd go, "Can why?" I like give me a reason, give me a sign, like why." The woman never did like in my mind. My mother did no wrong. She was involved in the church. I'm like she goes to church. She worships you. She does this. She raised four kids. She fought cancer for 10 years, but yet she's taken at 47. She never got to see a grandchild. Like it was just anger. I think at the situation, but just because I missed her, I wanted her back. I just wanted to know why, and I knew I just wasn't going to get that answer. So it turned into rage. It just turned into, and it was all the time. It was just I still to this day I've gotten better over the last 5 or 6 years. I've learned to control a little bit better, but I've had rage issues for probably 20 years, and it's very difficult to come by. But I have a great wife, my now wife. We've been together going on 20 years, and she's the godsend. So
Yeah, it's funny. My wife is in Australia right now, so she's gone on this like bucket list trip for like 3.5 months. My daughter went with her for 2 months, so my daughter just came home last week, and I I think a lot of guys, when especially when you have a good woman, you can delude yourself into thinking you're like more civilized than you actually are. But as soon as she left, dude, it was like I reverted to some kind of college student. Like my fridge is full of like pre-made protein shakes and steaks. There's not a friggin' piece of fresh fruit in there. I'm like, I thought I was more civilized than this, man. Jesus. So I can, I can relate
yeah.
for sure. When I guess so at that time, I'm curious because I'm sort of exploring my own spirituality. I mean, I was always grew up as like a basically a full on atheist, and I'm really questioning all that now. But at that time, were you like devoutly religious? You just or you kind of like a lapsed? Like what was the how would you describe your faith or at that time?
Well, I started to lose faith at that time. I mean, when I was growing up, I was an altar boy. Um, I was a lector. That's how I learned to public speak. I spoke in church. I did the reading, so I was heavily involved in church. Again, going to Catholic school, said my prayers at night, read the Bible with my father. I mean, instead of reading books, we would read passages out of the Bible. I'd say, I was a very devout Catholic. The family was, but once my mother passed, I sort of lost my way. I mean, I still always believed in God. I believed that there was a purpose and there was a higher power, but I just didn't feel comfortable going into a church. I didn't feel comfortable, so I sort of put it on the back burner for probably until honestly, until my one of my sons got married was the next time I think I was in church outside of my dad's funeral. I haven't really been in a church since then.
So okay, so one of the things I'm curious about is so you're in this stage of your life. You've had tons of exposure to religion in church, outside church. Your mom does, but devout people have been dying for every reason imaginable since we've been human. So I guess what I'm curious about is uh, why do you think that challenged your faith so much? When I mean, we can look around us and say, again, just devoutly religious people die for every reason all the time anyway. Like, so I'm curious about what, as you reflect back on that, I mean, how do you think about those two things? Like,
I just think it was the closeness, because of the relationship I had with my mother. Like, if it was, say, your mom or, my wife's mom, it would be, I would probably be sad. I would try to understand it, but I don't have that same. I mean, my mother was literally, for me anyway, was it. Right? Like my mother was the top of the world. Like she did no wrong. Not that she didn't, but she did no wrong. And like we would take rides together. I mean, there was so much time spent with her, and I never thought of myself as like a mama's boy. It was just we just had a great relationship, and I don't know what it was. We were just very similar. But I don't know. It just disrupted my serenity, my peace. It was sort of like someone came in and just put their hand in my chest and tore my heart and soul right out at one time. And that's just exactly what it felt. I just felt so deflated watching her get carried up the driveway that day. It was just like I didn't even think it was real. It felt so surreal to me until days afterward. And then I don't believe in a lot of that stuff, but I do believe that I saw her a few days after she passed away. And that's a story that I think I've only shared with like two people because I was walking to my bedroom. And so my house, when I grew up, the bathroom was off to the right. My bedroom was off to the left, probably about 5 feet. Anyway, I was coming out of the bathroom, going to the bedroom, and all of a sudden, I was in the kitchen, coming through the kitchen, and I just felt like the back of the room illuminated, like all of a sudden it was just bright. And I'm and I thought I was dreaming. And I turned around, and I'm not going to say that it was my mom, but it was a vision of a woman. And when I looked back again, it was gone. And I believed that it was my mother reaching out, letting me know she was there. So, as we've progressed and as I've tried to get through the grief, some years are harder than others. Like my mother's symbol is the butterfly. So when I see that, I believe that she's always around me. I feel her presence more in the last 5 years and my dad than I ever have before. And I don't know if that's because I'm on the path that I'm on now, being that what I've been through and now, as you said in the bio, creating my own organization and doing all that. What I was put here for was to save as many people or to at least help as many people on their journeys. I think now it's their way of saying they're here, we got you, we're proud of you, and that's what gets me through, is knowing that they're always around me and I can feel them all the time.
Man, yeah, I agree. I've had the similar, not so much with my wife, but with my daughter. I've definitely had some incredibly powerful experiences, like powerful experiences that are permanently perception altering. Like, um, so I think I find it super comforting. It's awesome to hear you've had those kind of experiences. When you were in the aftermath of your mom's death and you're leading, you're kind of consumed with rage, you're acting out. How aware were you of the at that time of the connection between like the loss of your mom or your parents and your rage?
I don't know that I ever really realized it to a few years later. I mean, I knew I was angry. I don't know if there was more. Like, I didn't see that it was, as I said, the like that straw that broke my back. It was just my mother was at the forefront. I was just angry at that time. I was angry at God, angry at the world. Wasn't so much at my father or any individual. It was just I did a lot in solitude, a lot of time by myself. I sort of like became, and I'm very outspoken, like you seem to be too. I'm very social, extrovert, but I wasn't at that time. I just sort of climbed into a shell. And then it was almost like this when this reawakening happened. It was just it felt like Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. That's the best way I can describe it. That's exactly what I felt like. I felt like mild mannered Bruce Banner, and then at the drop of a dime, it could just turn into, all right, that's it, man. I'm just destroying everything in my path, or, whatever that meant. And I hurt. It goes back to what you said too, because I hurt a lot of people emotionally, physically, mentally. And I went on social media 2 years ago and did a group apology in front of thousands of people. And I said to everyone that I've ever hurt in any capacity, I am sorry. I am truly sorry from the bottom of my heart. And it felt very good to do that.
I
Because,
bet it did.
yeah, when you're in that realm, you don't realize that you're hurting people in every different capacity. And it sucks when it's pointed out to you, or you finally realize it. Then you feel like a piece of shit. And it's just like, wow, like, why did they take the brunt of everything? It's not them. They didn't do it.
Yeah. Sometimes having a dose of realizing what a piece of shit you can be is good for the soul. What So I'd love to. Obviously, I want to get to the point where you things got so dark that you tried to take your own life. But for that, I mean, having had 30 years to, you know, navigate the loss of your parents, etc. What are some things you've learned about grief and the grieving process that you think maybe are important for people to know?
Well, I'm gonna put it in this perspective because this is what you're basing your show on. So I'm gonna deal it from a men's point of view, which is probably the best way to do it because we all know that men's mental health is a huge thing. So to all the men out there, especially, share with your partner. I mean, let them into your world. I mean, you have to let your loved ones in. Um, Being by yourself is not the answer. I mean, I know it feels like it, or in that moment, you just want, I don't want to be bothered. Don't talk to me, don't do this. But I found, and this is my second marriage, so sometimes you got to find the wrong one to find the right one. But my wife Katrina has been a blessing. She's been through her own stuff, and she can just read me very well. Like she knows when I'm having a bad day. She knows when I'm having a good day. Sometimes she offers advice. Sometimes it's just a hug. But I've always said to men that is the best one hit of advice I can give you is let other people into your world, especially if you are married. In either way, a wife, your husband, whatever it is, let them into your world. You have to lower your guard. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be able to share that. You have to be able to cry. That's the biggest thing. Men have to allow themselves to cry. If you feel like crying, then goddamn it, let it go. I don't care who you're in front of. Let it go because you're not weak. Let it go.
Yeah, you know, there's so much there. I sometimes think, if you're not sure if something you're doing is dumb, say it out loud in the form of a sentence. If it sounds fucking stupid, it probably is, right? So, and I think like, okay, so say this like as a sentence. I just suffered the most important loss of my life, and I'm gonna get through that by not letting anybody into my experience, man. That's my fucking plan to get back, like to heal. Like, in what universe could that work? But when we let it rattle around our head, we can make that make total sense. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, man. Like,
You know what I think too? I think it's also in certain cases. I think it's almost we want people, we sort of want the attention to be on us, sort of like feel bad for me, even though we're not doing it, we're subconsciously we are. Like,
Yep,
leave us alone, but then people feel even worse for you. So they're like, oh, can I do this? And I think in our own subconscious, we do it without even realizing that we're doing it. Um,
totally.
but yeah, I just, I've always, my wife and I have a great relationship to that extent where, where I'm like you, I've been on podcasts all over the world. I've been on 3 national radio shows, which I'm blown away by because it's, there's stories out there that are much worse than mine. But I've cried in front of tens of thousands of people. I break down in front of my sons, in front of my wife, in front of my best friend. I have no problem with that. And you know what? I think that makes, you not just a man, it makes you a human being, which is what we all are, right? We all want to be loved. We all want to feel like our life matters. We all want to feel like we're a part of something bigger. And it's all about connection. Life is about connection. It's about connecting with as many people as we can from all different walks of life. That's what we're put here to do. That's my sincere belief.
Mine too, man. Yeah, we're kindred spirits there. I'm curious for you. Like, I love the message about allowing yourself to feel, to show your emotions, to cry. What I'm curious about is your experience when that happened. So for me, like, I've learned over the years that if I feel like I need to cry, I cry. But I hate it, man. Because when I am crying, basically, like, there's this narrative going on in my head that you can't protect your family in this situation, dude. Like, fuck. I don't listen to it anymore. I don't let it dictate my behavior. But it is a very strong internal dialogue, like telling me that what I'm doing is fucking weak. Still to this day.
I
So
get
I
that.
don't.
I know I get that way. Like I did in the beginning when I first, like if I try around my friends, like obviously your guy friends, you'd be like, oh man, like I'd be like, oh, so sorry, man. You're wiping your eyes. I'm so sorry. Then I realized, what am I sorry for? Like what? Like even though my friends would tell me, but I'm like, what am I sorry for? Like people know, like people that genuinely know you, know that you are a protector and a provider. Like everyone knows, like where my wife worked. Everyone knows, hey, that's her husband. You don't want to go mess with that guy. Like I love that whole thing, but my wife always told me, probably a year into us dating, she told me, she goes, I always feel safe around you. She goes, I know nothing will ever happen to me when you're around. And that's the best feeling. So to me, I can do I can cry, I can curl up in a ball, I can hide, I can do, but she knows, her, just that one message from her saying, I always feel protected. I know you will always protect me. I feel safe with you. To have someone tell you that and genuinely mean it, like, let me just share this real quick. So I had my own podcast for a while with my organization. My buddy was a producer, and we did this podcast for, I don't know, 12, or it's still on iTunes, I think, 12 or 15 episodes. So to get into a segue into what you're going to talk about, which is my suicide attempts, my audience said, would your wife come on and talk about the situation? Now mind you, my wife and I had never talked about this. She stopped both attempts. So I'm just going to lead into that. So my now wife stopped both of my attempts. So I went home and I said, Katrina, my audience wants to know if you want to come on. And if you don't, I totally understand. And she goes, no, I'll come on. I said, okay. So we went on, started the podcast, started talking about things. And the producer is a friend of both of ours. So we stopped the podcast and he said, can I ask Katrina a question? And I said, sure. Ask her, is that okay? And she said, yeah. And he goes, why did you stay? And this was because the first attempt was like 6 months into us dating. Okay. So she could have been like, this guy's a nutbag. I'm not staying around. But anyway, he goes, why did you stay? And I was waiting for the answer because we never talked about it. So she looked at him and she looked at me and she said, I knew I could never live without him. And to this day, it's the only podcast I ever cried on because I never felt that I deserved anyone to love me the way that she did. And she has for 20 years. And even when I think about it now, I well up because I was blown away. And it was the highest podcast I had. I had like 500,000 views. It was ridiculous. And I was speechless. I was like, wow, like I've never been loved like that. Like other than my mother, I don't think that I honestly say that I've ever been loved by another human being the way my wife loves me. And that's the God
Yeah,
honest truth. That's not just because it's my wife. It's God honest true love to the highest degree.
yeah, got goosebumps, man. That's amazing. What, what is it like for you to reflect on the guy that you were, like this, angry, destructive, and to realize the dichotomy, let's say, between that and your wife telling you that I feel safe around you. Like, what is it like to realize that you went from there to where you are now? Because a lot of people think that's impossible, right?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy to, I mean, especially us as men to change our ways, especially when we know we're doing, and things are pointed out that we're doing things that can harm other people, whether it be emotionally or mentally or physically. To know that you're hurting someone that cares that deep about you, I think puts it in a whole different perspective. But looking back, I'm a better man. I became I'm a father. I have three boys. I have my sixth grandbaby on the way. So to be a father and a pop, I will say, and to be a husband and a friend and an advocate, all the things that I become, because I was one thing back then, a train wreck. I was literally a train wreck. I mean, that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Better yet, I was chaos. I was chaos. And to know that I was able to come from that. But this is, asking for help, having a good support system, being able to admit that you have issues that you need to resolve. I mean, a lot of guys can't do that because they feel automatically if I'm asking for help, then I'm a wuss, I'm a girl, I'm a bit, whatever way you want to do it. I'm weak. Oh, my wife's gonna think less of me. No, I'm gonna tell all the guys out there that watch this, your wives will not think of you that way. I'm telling you right now, the look on their face when you open up or you just, let them in, because what we do in that moment when we shut down, like say if your wife came to you and said, "Hey, Jason, what's going on today?" "Oh, I don't want to talk about it." All of a sudden, what goes to their mind is, "Did I do something wrong? Like, what did I do? Or what did the kids do?" And that's not fair to them. So if we can at least say to them, "Hey," like I do to my wife, "Hey, having a bad day. It's not anything you did. I just had a rough day. Can we talk about it later?" Something as simple as that. And we do. We'll end up talking about it, and then she'll say, "Do you want my advice or do you want me to just listen?" And I'm not saying that everyone's blessed with another half like that, but she's been through a lot of trauma herself. And I think that's why it works. And I think we're there for each other. We make a very strong and powerful couple. We're very connected. And then I just got lucky, man. I just get something saved me. Maybe the same God I was mad at is the one that brought her into my life and saved me and said, "You know what? After all this shit that you've been through and the fires that you walked through, I'm gonna give you something to say. You know what? This is what you were. This is why you're still here. Not only are you here for your purpose, for your organization, but you're here because this woman needs you. And then this is it. This is it." So I believe in all of that now. I after I hit like 45, I look things at a whole different perspective.
Sounds like an amazing woman, man.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I love that she said it's one of the things we teach in I run a men's group for dads who own businesses, and one of the things we teach them is that exact thing your wife said is just, such a powerful question. Is like, what do you need from me right now? Do you need me to just listen, or do you want advice? Because we guys just immediately jump to trying to fix things, and it never works, man.
It
Because
doesn't.
when people are upset, they just want to be seen and heard. They don't want
Hmm.
your stupid opinion about
No.
what they should do. So, and
Very
it's really
true.
hard not to give it. Um, so how did you? I guess rather than necessarily getting into the whole sequence of events that led to your suicide attempts, I mean, I would love to know what it is like for you in that moment. Like, what is going through your head and heart that makes it so that this final decision makes some kind of sense, or is like the least worst path?
Well, I will tell you that in that moment, that's one of the questions that a lot of people ask me, like what's going on in that moment. And the only way to describe it is it's almost like you're in a black hole. There's nothing else around you. It's almost like being at the bottom of the ocean, seeing the top and seeing that you can get there, but no matter how hard you swim, you can't come to the surface. So you just feel like you're just sort of floating there, and there's literally nothing in that moment. So I won't dive way into it, but I will tell you, like, so the first time when it came down, it was just compounded with everything that had gone on in my life, everything that I'd been through. I didn't feel like I had anything to offer anybody at the time. I didn't have anything to offer my kids. They were younger at the time. I was like, hey, they're gonna be better without me. I'm an asshole. I've treated people like shit. I've done this. I've hurt people in every different capacity. I'm not good enough for Katrina. She does. I don't deserve that. So we're in my apartment because I had divorced my ex-wife and I was living with my buddy. He wasn't home. Katrina was at the house. So I had made the decision right there. I was standing in the kitchen. I still remember it. I can see it this day. And she was in my bedroom, I believe. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed the knife. I went out on my porch. I sat in a chair. I stuck the knife to my throat. And by the time I went to rip it across my throat, she'd come running out of the. And I don't know how she knew what was going on. She come running out of the house, grabbed my arm with both hands, and slowly talked me down. Basically, by you know how people say your life matters, the world's a
Mm.
better place with you. It's very generic. I know it sounds bad, but what she did is she said, Nicholas needs you. And these are my sons. Nicholas needs you. Tyler needs you. It's me. It's Katrina. I need. So it brought me back because I was able to connect the names with faces. It wasn't just you, Matt, or you. It was now all of a sudden it was almost bringing clarity back to watching my kids, like almost seeing a vision of them crying and seeing her cry. And it took about, if I can remember, about 10 to 12 minutes to come back into reality as I slowly, she would mention a name, she'd start pulling it away, pull it away, pull it away, pull it. Finally got to the point where, she had stopped it. But we brushed it under the rug. We never talked about it. And I'd say, if I'm correct, maybe 2 years later, I don't even know what proposed that when I tried it again with alcohol and pills, and I tried to overdose.
And was the time between those attempts, was that full of, I'm assuming it was fairly full of mental and emotional torture, or did you have a peak and valley afterwards, or?
And not to demean her, but my ex-wife was very not a good person. I like we like basically we got married because we had kids, and being in a Catholic family, I wasn't gonna just be like, oh hey, I knocked you up, see ya. No, I took care of my kids, but I worked 3 jobs. I to put them through. She didn't want to work. She made up excuses. It was always very verbally abusive for a while. So even going through the separation, everything else, it was if I wanted my kids, it could be at the time we didn't have the court order, so I'd be like, oh well, you can't have them. It was a lot of mental games. So okay, well you can have them, now you can't have them. It was just a lot of up and down and back and forth. So sort of started to fall into a depression, and I was like, man, I'm really failing my kids. What are my kids gonna think? Um, so yeah, I think it was just a lot. And then obviously after that time, that was Jesus, that's got to be 17 years ago. But I still battle depression. I know when it's coming. I know my trigger points. I know, I can feel it coming when it comes, but it never goes away. Depression is a lifelong, unfortunately, a lifelong sentence. Even with, it doesn't matter what you do. And I'm not going to take pills. Obviously, I can't take pills because I'm a recovering addict. So I tell doctors, I said, I don't feel comfortable taking pills. I'm afraid where that possibly could lead. Not that it would, but who knows?
Yeah. So what's the path out of the pit, man? Like after that second attempt, I can't imagine how Katrina reacted the second time. I mean, that must, like, maybe she didn't do anything different, but I mean, I would think that would be super traumatic for her.
I think she told me we were driving somewhere and I passed out in the car and she couldn't wake me up, if I remember the story correctly. I wasn't breathing. I was literally in the passenger seat, and I think she had to pull over, and she had to like bring me back. I don't know if I just lost consciousness, but I do remember her telling me the story. She goes, you stopped breathing for, I don't know, it was a few seconds or a few minutes, and she couldn't wake me. So of course now she's in like panic mode. She has to pull. She's driving, pulled the car over, shaking me, trying to. I think she finally got me to come to. Um, but that's all I remember of that story. That memory doesn't really come back as well as the first one. The first one was obviously a very extreme way of doing it. It's a very not a good way to go. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend it for anybody in any capacity. But that's a rough way to don't let yourself. I mean, I guess to the people out there, if you're gonna give advice, I mean, I know life gets bad. We all have ebbs and flows. There's always going to be bad spots. But reach out. It goes back to, when you need that, reach out. It doesn't have to be to your mother, your father, your wife, a best friend, even your kids. Your kids get to be adults. You can reach out to your kids. There's no shame in that. Hey, I need to talk to you about whatever. Seek professional help if that's what you need, but definitely let someone know. I mean, don't just write a letter and just say okay, and then here off we go. It's just I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer to that. But the underlying message is don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. Become the fucking light. And once you're down that far, who doesn't love a success story? And it's not. But it's not. It's not even to say to have people go, "Oh, good job, pat on the back." It's how can I put it? So 5 years ago, my dad's anniversary. Quick story. I get up in the morning and I have a message, just a random message. And I look at my wife, I'm looking at my phone, and I go, I got this weird message. Should I open it? And it wasn't like nowadays where you're afraid to open everything up because you don't know who the hell's writing you. But she goes, okay. So I open it up and I'm reading it. And it was from a young man, younger than I was. I don't know, maybe 30s. And he had said, I want you to know that I was listening to a podcast the other day and you were a guest and you were sharing your story. I was on the precipice of taking my own life, and your words stayed my hand. I want you to know that you truly saved my life with your words and your story, and I wanted to thank you for that. And right now, the hairs on my arms are standing up because I literally looked at my wife and said, "Someone just told me I saved their life," and that is a feeling that you can't even describe to anybody. That another human, said that you saved their life. I mean, I couldn't even put that into perspective for the longest time. Like, oh my God, like all I did was tell my story. Like I don't know, it blew me away.
You made it safe to be human, is what you're doing, right? And I think it's just it's such a great story to go from like the depths of despair to because I'm sure I can tell you're just a normal dude like all of us, and you know I'm sure part of you thinks, because I think this about myself too. I'm like, look, man, if I can, knowing where I have been, like, if I can crawl out of that and actually like create a life to help people, like, trust me, literally anyone can do it, man. Like, because I was fucked, like, so, yeah, I mean, yeah, so just kudos to you, man. It's just such an
Well, I mean, you're
amazing.
doing what you do with, and that's why I reached out to you when I first saw when you put this out when you were doing it. And a lot of podcasts that I've been on are with other men, and we've gotten really deep into men's mental health, and I know we need more of it. And you know what? They've been some really, and I mean, I've been in ones from Australia and Ireland and they've just been really like we got into some real deep shit. And I think a lot of guys would comment and write in and go, "Wow, thank you for having the courage to." I'm like, it doesn't really take courage. You just realize you're a human being. I mean, you have to shake that stigma that we have in society about being the alpha male, that you need to be a 300-pound guy with a beard, bench pressing 500 pounds in a gym, and you can't cry. And who the hell made that rule up? Like, I don't know. I mean, my mom died, I cried. My kids got married, I think I cried there. I just, whatever, hugging another man. So I know we're probably running low on time, but I'll tell you this: when I started the my men's group, which is a conscious men's group, which teaches men how to be vulnerable around other men, it's basically most of them are veterans that deal with depression and PTSD. Started with 5 members, it has 130 in it now. But anyway, one of my
Were
success
you in the
stories.
military?
I was not. Amazingly
Okay,
enough, I wasn't. But I do come. My sons were military. My
okay,
wife's family is, which is what I'm getting into now. So my brother-in-law, who I didn't have a great relationship, he was a Marine. So Marines are bred one way. You think this way, you feel this
oh
way. You
yeah,
don't. So he called me up 5 years ago. Still remember that day. And he goes, "Hey, would you go have a beer with me?" And we went to this brewery, which is military owned. And I looked at my wife and I go, "Your brother Jeff called me up and he wants to have a chat with me. I'm going to go down and talk to him." So I met him down there, and he just wanted to talk. So I just listened. I just held space for him. He went on for about a half hour. I mean, deep shit. I mean, stuff that I don't think he's ever uncovered. I mean, by the time he was done, he was literally tears coming down his face, like I could feel. So he was getting ready to go, and I went up and I grabbed him and I gave him. And he's bigger than I am, and I gave him a hug. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Just bring it in." I said, "How'd that feel?" And he goes, "You know what?" And I could like feel the energy, like a. And he goes, "It felt great." And I said, "All right." So we went home. 10 minutes later, my sister-in-law calls and she goes, "I don't know what you did with Jeffrey." She goes, "But thank you." She goes, "He doesn't share that with me." Now, fast forward 5 years, he's an advocate for my organization. He helps other military. I mean, he's done a 180 in his relationship with his wife. He's more outgoing. I mean, the change in him, the transformation was unbelievable. And to know that you had a part in that, it's really cool. Like, I go to my wife's job. There's younger guys. I was just talking to two of them the other day about life and relationship, and now I'm the old guy giving relationship and life advice to people, and they're listening. And it's like, wow, okay, that's my gift I was blessed with. It's to help these young men navigate what we went through and to avoid those pitfalls. So I think that's my purpose.
yeah. And you know what I love about young guys is when you're our age, like you haven't completely fallen apart yet. Like you know what I mean? Like you're kind of
Right.
career wise, you're, typically you do it, in a decent place. You've got everything these young guys want. They think like, and so they're totally open to
Oh
hearing
yeah.
generally what you have. They put you on this ridiculous pedestal, but so I love that you're doing that. What do you think you did that created like with the that story you told? What do you think you did that created this, like made it safe enough for him to be willing to open up to you? Like, because that's a big deal, man.
I think I've said over the year, for some reason, people, and this is like both men and women, there's a comfort level. I don't know if I'm just very comforting in the way I bring myself into their world. Like I've done a lot of one-on-ones. I'm sure you probably have in some group settings. And one of the things I learned with one-on-ones is a lot of times people don't want to share right away. The guard is up because they want to know that you're genuine. Because you can go into a psychologist and there's nothing against them, but a lot of times they talk at you. They have a book that says if your client says this, then you say that, and it's just like I'm not a big fan of any of that. I'm going to be honest with you. But if you were to sit down, like you say, you came to me and said, "Hey, I really need to talk." What I would do is I'd start sharing my story, and what I do is I try to find that one thing. Like I could start with bullying, and I would watch to see if the light went off. It didn't really go off. They're just still sitting there, head down. Maybe you get into the drug addiction. Now I can see the light bulb, and I'm like, okay, we've narrowed your mental health aspect down to the starting point was addiction. Now I can focus on what we need to talk about. So then I just tell them, I said, will you allow me to share a little bit about me with, my journey? Once you do that and they understand that you get it because you've done it, you've been there, you've lived through it, and you've come out the other end. I think that was a big thing with him. I think it was just something, maybe it was just, I don't even know why he reached out to me. I have no idea. But to this day, I'm glad he did. He's just done. I mean, it's amazing. I don't even know what I did, to be honest with you. I can't even answer that question because
I
I don't
think you,
know.
I think you did answer it though, because I think you went first, man. And I think we're generally surrounded by people just waiting for somebody else to go first. And when you can say, "Hey, this is me, man, fucking flaws and all," and it just makes you human and it makes you safe enough. Like if this guy can admit he's just a normal guy, flawed, trying to do his best, screwing up. I mean, if you can show that that's okay, I mean, it makes it safe for everybody else to be okay. And ultimately, we just want to be our freaking selves, man. So, not to have to wear this stupid mask we sometimes feel obligated to wear. Um, so, I mean, what's the path for going from like that dark? I mean, I know it's a long journey, but how do you go from like this darkest place where you're wanting to end it to figuring out that you want to help people, how you want to help people? Like, what did that journey look like?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what the journey is, but I'll tell you the enlightening point was at my father passing away. So my father and I didn't have a great relationship in the end. I blame myself a lot about it. I think it was on both of us, but he remarried after my mother passed, and I just didn't like the woman. I made it very well known that my mother was my mother, and myself and my sister are very much alike, and then my two brothers are alike. So my sister and I made it very clear that we didn't like her. We weren't comfortable. We weren't but anyway, so I sort of rekindled. My father got diagnosed with mesothelioma because he worked around asbestos and ended up in the hospital. And I went to see him. Actually, no, I went to see him on Thanksgiving. I surprised him at my sister's house. And when he saw me, we hadn't seen each other in probably, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years. And he gave me, all of a sudden, he was talking, he's telling the story, and he sees me come up the stairs to my sister's kitchen out of the den downstairs. And he just stopped and he came up and gave me this giant bear hug, and it was like the best feel. Like all those years just didn't even seem like they happened at the time, and we were in the moment, and we sort of rekindled. So anyway, he went in, ended up getting sepsis. They had to pull out one of his lungs, and he ended up getting sepsis. It leaked into the lung, and it ended up poisoning him and he ended up passing away. And he left all the kids some money, retirement, whatever. And I was just sitting out with my wife one day, and something popped into my head, and I said, you know what? I said, I came out and I said, I'm going to start an organization. I'm going to start helping people. And she goes, what? And I go, I don't know. Just something's telling me that I could take this money, I go on vacation, or I could buy a car, whatever. But no, there's a reason. There's a reason I have this. What is that purpose? So I started doodling things down. I went through doodles and this and that. Finally came up with the name, and I looked at her and I said, "Here's the name of the organization. This is what it's going to be." And I showed her the name and I showed her the thing, came up with this logo. And I said, okay, I'm just going to build this. And at the time, it was a nonprofit. Since then, I've just made it a community organization because the nonprofit world is so tough to navigate. It's, oh my God. But it did for like 4 or 5 years. It was very strong. But I started it. And after that first event, it felt good. People were coming up and going, hey, thank you, or a hug, or whatever. And it was like, wow, I'm touching people in so many different capacities. I felt great about it. I was helping kids and veterans, and it just blossomed into something that now I do one event a year, and it's called Military Appreciation Day. It's Operation Give Back. It's in its 5th year this year, and every dollar we raise goes to local veteran organizations. And it's been on the news. It's been all over the place. Well, I think we've raised, I don't know, 40 or 50 out of a small brewery in 4 years, and it all goes back to the veterans. And I have so much fun doing it. I enjoy it, and it's my purpose. The organization just got too much. My own mental health was suffering. I was running around trying to save everybody, and it just mentally all caved in on me at one time. I went through a week long depression, and my wife's like, "You got to step back. You're not taking care of yourself." And I'm like, you know what, you're right. And so I did. And sometimes you need a kick in the teeth.
For sure. Well, and I think you hit on something that's because I went through something similar where, and I think, to a certain extent, I still deal with this to a certain extent. I mean, although I'm more aware of it, but I had this part of this like obsessive need to overachieve when it comes to like making a positive difference in the world. I know is because I couldn't save my wife and I couldn't save my fucking daughter, and so now I feel like at least part of me feels like I got to save everybody else, And I know that's like I'm aware of it, so it's not as much of a thing as it was. But I used to allow that subconscious, without even being aware of it, to just drive me to fucking distraction, man. Gotta do more. Gotta do
Yeah.
more.
No, yeah. I couldn't do enough. I wasn't even
Yep.
getting sleep because we went through. So we had COVID. During COVID. So what I did is, again, all these other nonprofits that have millions of dollars in backers didn't do shit in our community. That's a God honest truth. So I started with. I opened a community store. It was all donation based. I had a friend that owned a restaurant, and what she did is she took her dining area. We converted it into a store, so all the tables were set up, and low income and elderly people could come in once a week and shop. And we had everything. We had everything. So I would go do my full time job, go shopping, stock the store, be at the store, and did that. I think we ended up feeding, I don't even know, maybe 3,000 families. On top of that, I was doing something called Feed the Front Lines, which is we took smaller businesses that were suffering, and so you could call me up and say, hey, I want to do lunch for the fire department. So you pay for the food. It gives the business the money to keep their lights on, but it also feeds the frontline staff. I fed 350 staffs in that same time frame as doing a full-time job, putting the store on, doing my organization, having a family. Yeah, I was going like nonstop. Bang, 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 bang. Like everything I could get my hands into. I did a relief effort to Florida during one of the hurricanes. I mean, I've been all over the place. And then it was like, holy shit, man, I'm exhausted. But
It's it's funny to sorry, I just want to say it's
yeah,
funny to realize that in the end, while you were doing a lot of good, it's just another addiction, man.
it is.
Like
It is.
it's like sometimes I feel like it's fucking playing whack-a-mole sometimes. It always pops up in some other area where I was not expecting it. Like maybe one day I'll be totally free of it, but right
Right.
now I'm just vigilant.
And you know what? People made me realize that all I was doing was hiding all the things I was dealing with, my depression. Basically, it was masking it because I was staying so busy that I didn't have time to think about that. So when I slowed down is when it affected me. Because when I slowed down, COVID was started coming out, things were getting, and then it was like, and maybe this sounds weird, maybe you get this, but I'd get done with something and I'd go, okay, now what do I do? What's my purpose? Now I'm lacking a purpose in my
Oh
life.
no, I
Like
get it.
I always feel like I have to have a purpose. Like one thing gets done, I get done with the military event, I'm already thinking of next year. Now I'm like, what else can I do? I gotta get my hands on something else. Like I gotta help somebody. There's gotta be a way. And I need to just take a deep breath and step back and go, it's okay to not save everybody. It's okay to let other people and other organizations do that. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm right now I am what my focus on is really trying to be intentional about like introducing actual like rest, like where I literally don't do anything. and it is incredibly difficult, man. But I know that like because this whole thing is a fool's errand because nothing will ever be enough until you freaking kill yourself, basically. Like not literally kill yourself, but
Yeah.
like you know what I mean. Like so yeah, I love that you're explaining it. So let me ask you. So I'd love to hear about the organization. So right now you have yeah, like what are you working on right now? Here.
So when I first started it, so basically it's still the same name. So I named it 4S for Life, and what that is the four S's stand for strength, struggle, sacrifice, and survival. You can apply it to anything. So 4S's for life. So your end all is, you need the strength to get through the struggle. You have to make sacrifices to survive. Basically, in a nutshell, is what we did. So we started with doing, things for cancer patients and things for kids. But what I would do is I would donate the money to a bigger organization, but I lacked the connection. And I'm like, I really want to connect with, not that I was raising the money for them, not to see, but just to connect with them, to hear their stories. So I started doing, on my own. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to get my 501c3. I'm going to get my nonprofit and I'm just going to start doing it. We started doing things. I had the men's group. I started an anti-bullying campaign. I had a health and wellness program in one of the schools for the school district, Queensbury School District, where I'm at. Bring in like a jujitsu trainer or an artist. The kids would sign up. It was a way for kids to have something positive to go into to help them with their psyches. So we had a lot of programs that stemmed off of the initial organization, and we were all over the community. Like we were doing, everyone knew who we were, and this and that. You couldn't go anywhere. It was like, holy crap, this is what celebrities feel like. In a way, it was just like I'm not really a celebrity, but wow, it's. And again, I think that brought me back to childhood, going, wow, it feels really good to be noticed because I was never
Mm,
noticed. And now it was a whole different world for me because people would go out and they're like, "Oh, you're the 4S for Life guy. Hey, thanks." Or you'd have random people, "Hey, thank you for doing this event. Hey, you saved me." And it was like, wow. So this is what it feels like to be on the other end of what I was as a kid. So it was almost like it came full circle.
yep.
And it was like, okay, now I get it. And now I'm on the other end of it again, where now I'm took the limelight out, and now I'm just the average. I'm just Jacque, the husband and father. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And every once in a while, I'll put my nose out there, and people go, "There he is again. He's doing. What are you up to now?" Like it's like So yeah, it's just trial and error, and it's been a long road. It's been an interesting road, but it's been a fulfilling road. And I tell people all the time that not to be morbid, but people are like, "Oh, are you afraid of dying?" And I said, "No, I could die tomorrow and I'd be comfortable." And they said, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah, I've traveled the world. I married my best friend. I raised 3 boys, 6 grandkids. I started an organization from scratch. I've survived everything. I'm good, man. And if you live that way, stress free and not worry, I can't worry about that shit, man, because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's already, the date's there. If it's December 21st of 2026, it's going to happen, right? I can't stop it.
Yeah.
So I just,
So
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say. So I mean, I guess is your organization still running? Because I know you mentioned you have this community of 130 people. So like, what are you focused on now when it comes
Yep.
to?
So the men's mental health, I'm really between that and veterans seems to be the two big causes because our veterans are not taken care of in this country the way they should be. They're treated like even to this day, third class citizens. I mean, so I think being an outlet for our veterans, working with a lot of the equine therapy, with the dog program, with I've worked with a lot of those doing multiple fundraisers just to try to get the funds available to help these guys and get them, especially the mental health when they're dealing with PTSD and depression, to get them the help they need, to know that there's a safe space out there for them to be involved, that there are other people out there just like them that are suffering each and every day. So the more that we can bring that to the forefront and allow and again, I say men, but allow men to know that, hey, here's the key to unlock the door. You just got to step in. I'll unlock the door for you. You just got to you got to take the first step through the door and be okay with that. And it's so what I did is I took away the 501c3. That what you do with the 501c3 is you can get bigger donations because people can do them as write-off, so you can get. But
Mm,
it's not about the money for me. I mean, yes, the money helps, but it's not about the money. And just trying to hold a board of directors together and dealing with all the people, it was just too much. You're dealing with all these different personalities, and your board can always rule against. Even though you're the CEO and the founder, the board can always rule against you. It just turned into and those people were great people, but it just their vision was not the same as mine. And I just let it lapse, and now we're just a community organization, but we're still functioning. I just don't do the monetary part of it. I just do the men's group. I do the military event, and maybe a couple other things that people need. How to start an event, how to do this. I will do that type of thing, almost like a consulting. I just joined the United States Marine Corps League. I'm doing all their fundraising, coordinating. So basically, I don't have to be the face anymore. I don't have to be the guy. I can just be a cog in the wheel. And I think I'm okay with that. I was already the guy. I don't want to be the guy anymore. I just want to be a cog in the wheel. And I'm good with that. Because I'm good with what I've done so far. And I'm comfortable with that.
If you well, pick, I mean, you're talking to a bunch of, there's going to be a ton of guys that watch this, and also people who love guys that are struggling. If you were to distill down like, a couple of takeaways, like you really want to drive home to the people watching, what would they be?
Well, as I said, I think reiterating what we've talked about over the last hour is um, don't think of yourself as just a man. Think of yourself as a human being. So you have feelings, you have aspirations, you have dreams, just like everybody else does. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Don't let anyone sort of put you into a box and say you can or cannot do anything. Be your own person. Let people into your world, and that means having relationships with your kids and having relationships with your spouses or whatever that may be. Um, and ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out. And if you find yourself in that mode, definitely reach out. Don't let it, because what happens is it turns into rage. It turns into uh, things that could be a detriment to other facets in your life. So I think ask for help and ask for help. Let those people in, and don't be afraid to just be you. Feel what you feel at that time, whatever that feeling is, whether it's happy, sad, but just don't let things fester. Don't stay angry. Don't hold grudges. I mean, we could go right down the list. I mean, there's little things. So what I did here's one. I did it with my guys group. The initial guys, what I did is I gave them all calendars one day, and they go, "The hell are you giving us a calendar for?" I go, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to put it somewhere where you can see it, near your bed or in the fridge, on the fridge." I said, so every day for the first week, say it's January 1st, I want you to come up with a goal, one daily goal for every day of that week. And this can be as easy as every day I wake up at 7 o'clock, I'm going to wake up at 6:30 on Monday. Every day you eat eggs, I'm going to have cereal on Tuesday. Just little things. When you get up, and say you get up on Monday, you get up at 6:30. It's a goal. You hit your goal. That's your one goal for the day. You put a check there. Start your day out on a positive note. Now you're in a positive frame of mind because you accomplished one thing. If you didn't accomplish anything else, you accomplished one thing that day. So you go through the week, get to the end of the week, you count up what you had. So maybe you do 4 out of 7. Okay, now take the 3 that you didn't complete. You start your next week with that. You add 4 more. And you slowly progress. And then each month you get a little more difficult. You get bigger goals. By the time you realize, you're going to look back and wow, and you went, I accomplished, say you have 365 days, I accomplished, whatever, 280 goals in a year. Man, do I feel good. Yeah, because it's almost like when you get up in the morning. I see you were drinking coffee or whatever. So you have 2 ways of starting your day. So if you have a cup of coffee, you spill it on yourself. Now, 2 ways you can go at it. You can throw the cup like I used to across the room and go, son of a bitch, this is fucking blah, 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 blah. Now your day is already shot. You've already put yourself in a negative mindset. Everything else that day you're just going to be, this is going to bother you, this is going to bother you. Now, rewind, you spill it, and I've done this before. Oh, I can't believe I'm a dipshit. I cannot believe I just did that. But again, positive, not angry. Now you get in the car, you're in a better frame of mind. You have that choice to start your day and turn it to what it is, negative or positive. That's how you start your day.
But man, I got a buddy of mine who's a Olympic wrestler. And one of the things he says, which I think your advice just illustrated there, is he goes, consistency compounds, man. He's like, it's just the tiny, we look at things, we think about making change, and we look at, we catastrophize our current situation, and then we make where we want to be like a utopia. So there's this huge gulf between them. Like, fuck, I can never get there, man. I'm screwed. But, his point is just small incremental steps, man. It's the only way you're going to get there. Just make them as small as you can and just do them often. So I love that advice. And I guess last thing I want to say just to anybody listening is, and I'm saying this from personal experiences, I mean, if you are in a place where things are so dark and you don't see a way out, I want you to know a couple of things. One is healing is possible. But number 2, what I want you to know is if you think, and you've probably convinced yourself that everybody would be better off without you, if you end it all you are doing is transferring your pain onto everybody left behind, man. It's just how it is. And I know how tempting it can be for you to to convince yourself that fuck, you're a screw up, you're useless, you're a failure, you're worthless. Everybody would be better off without you. They won't. And I'm saying that from personal experience. So please get help. Please get help. So
It's a great message, man. Like, and I always like to end it like you have my email anyway, but I tell people that listen to this, and this goes to any man out there. I mean, even if women want advice too, but especially to men, if you're not alone, and maybe I can speak for you, Jason, as well as this, but
mhm.
hey, if you really need help, email me. You can find me on social media. I will take the time for anyone that is willing to step outside that box and say that they need help. I will do that. I will make the time. That is my listen. I've been there. You've all heard my story now. I would rather take a shot at saving you than having you go on the path that either I traveled, Jason's traveled, someone else has traveled, and end up where we did and maybe not come back from that. I would rather give you the tools to help you in any capacity that I can. So that's my pledge to anyone listening or watching that wants to reach out. I'm an open door. You can reach out to me. I don't care where you're from, who you are, what background you are. It doesn't matter. You're a human being.
What a an incredibly generous offer. And again, message the audience: when someone offers to help you, take it. Okay, it's always the best. It's
It
always a
is.
better idea. So
Yeah.
it's hard to do sometimes. But so Jacque, if people want to learn more about you and what you're doing, what's the best way for them to find you? Learn more about what you got going on?
So yeah, I mean, you have my email. My email is on the. I don't know if you'll put that up, but I
I
am
can,
on
yeah.
I am social media, Facebook, Instagram. My organization still has a page up. It is the number four, the letter S, the number four, and the word life. So 4S for life. I do read those messages if you want to go safely, securely. If you are reaching out for help, I don't need to know your name, your age, where you're from. Just shoot me a message. I'm in crisis. This is what I need, and I will make sure that I make the time to get back to you.
Boom. I love it, brother. And we'll share all your socials in the show notes. Listen, man, you are my first official episode. We had little technical problems, but now I know how this freaking platform works. I just want to say thanks, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I am very confident that the things you shared today are going to help people in ways you probably can't even imagine. So, thank you for
Hey,
being here and
thank
being
you for
so
having
generous.
me, and I'm honored to be the first guest. I don't know if I've ever been a first guest on a podcast, but that's good to get to all the quirks out now. So,
That's right, buddy. That's right. All right. Thanks so much, man.
all right, have a good day.